Joining us out of Oceanique is Don DeBar, activist and commentator, joining us out of northwestern U.S., New York to be exact. Hello there, Mr. Don DeBar. Always a pleasure to check in with you. I mean, things you hear Donald Trump say, you don't hear from any other president. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but from your perspective, today he was talking about what, or was it yesterday afternoon? He was talking about turning the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. He's been on this Panama Canal thing for a couple of weeks now. How do you assess or perceive, does he really have any intentions with approaching a conflict when it comes to the Panama Canal?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts here. It's my pleasure to be here, by the way. Thank you. First of all, Panama itself is actually a construct of the United States. It was broken off from Colombia with Teddy Roosevelt providing armaments and a U.S. corporation that managed the rails, blocking supply lines for the Colombian army to defend against what was painted as an uprising and an independence movement from Panama from Colombia. There was a treaty that had been signed between the United States and Colombia in early 1903 that would have had title and jurisdiction over the canal, which was to be built by the United States primarily in 1999. And that apparently didn't satisfy some elements here who didn't want to ever give it back. I assume at the time it had something to do with their long-term financing. And so this uprising was engineered or supported, depending on your point of view. And by the end of 1903, there was a new government, there was a new state, Panama, a new government, and a new treaty that did not contain a reverter. Fast forward through a number of different tug-of-war scenarios in the 20th century, and during the term of Jimmy Carter, you have a negotiated agreement where the canal would be turned over by the end of the century, at least at the more or less the same date as the original treaty provided. That has happened, although again there are contradictions. Meanwhile, next door in Nicaragua, there have been negotiations ongoing now for more than a decade between Nicaragua and various business entities in Beijing and now the state of the People's Republic of China to build a new modern canal through Nicaragua, which would be a huge boost for that country's economy and the region. China does have some interests in transporting materials through the canal as it is, as does the United States, by the way, and mega corporations here. Meanwhile, Trump is doing his usual PR thing. He's not president yet, but he manages to be on the front page of the paper all the time with some controversy over some big idea, quote unquote, that no one else has mentioned, whether it's painting a map of the United States and Canada as one country or buying Greenland as if it were some suburban golf course, or changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico, although I don't know who named it the Gulf of Mexico in the first place, to the Gulf of America, or maybe Trump Golf, whatever he names his golf courses after. I don't put much stock in what he's saying right now. I don't even think seriously it's a trial balloon. I think it's just an opportunity for him to occupy space on the front pages that might otherwise be occupied by people probing business deals by his family or interviewing people that he knew in kindergarten to see if he had bad breath and to fill the pages with that.
But Don, there's also
I pay more attention in Latin America right now to what's going on around the attempt to unseat the elected president of Venezuela, Maduro, which is the Biden administration's mechanisms, where they're taking another Juan Guaido and claiming this guy is now the elected president and doing everything they can to block the inauguration later this week, including, I assume, another assassination attempt.
Okay, Don, we don't have much time left. We really have to go, but I really want to get this second question out to you. There are a lot of skeletons down there in Panama that the U.S. does not want to revisit. You remember the invasion of Panama, when you and I were somewhat young back in the day, there were allegations that George Bush, as head of the CIA, was in bed with Noriega in the cocaine trade before that invasion, the U.S. invasion of Panama. There are a lot of, and he had a hush trial. There's a gag order when he was indicted with Manuel Noriega. You remember he ultimately died, had a brain tumor. He did some time in France, I believe, then got extradited back to Panama. But is this really something that the U.S. wants to revisit when it comes to politics, Panama?
Well, you know, if Trump's president, maybe he'll open those files, because that's what he claims to be, you know, sort of a daylight kind of guy. Certainly Trujillo and then Noriega were creatures of the United States, CIA, etc. So it'd be interesting to look into those files and see what happened and brought us here in the first place.
All right, but stay safe, Don. Always a pleasure to check in with you, Mr. Don DeBar. They're joining us out of New York. And that brings us to the end of your Press TV News Bulletin, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and bye-bye for now.